Welcome back to our Seeds devotionals this month at Planting Roots, and hopefully as you have walked with us through this year, you have heard the words meet and multiply over and over again, especially here during our Seeds devotionals on Tuesdays. We talk about how this plays out in our military culture and how we walk that out as Christian military women and wives. And so we're digging into that as we finish this year. I wanted to go back and look at Jesus and look at what that relationship looked like, what it meant to meet together with him, and what the byproduct of that meeting together became. And so today we're going to talk about Jesus and those 12 disciples that he called. It is intriguing to me that as he called those disciples, and he found them in the strangest of places, from fishing boats to tax collector booths, he found them in random places that he didn't expect. And yet he saw in them something more than what they were. He saw what they could be instead of what they were today. And then those guys, those 12 guys, and Jesus spent the next 3 years together. And if you think about it in our military terminology, it's kind of like a duty station, right? And those relationships that you build, the hearts that God weaves together in those places, that's what it was like for these guys, and even more so. I mean, if you've been on a deployment, imagine a 1-year deployment and your relationship with those folks. You do everything with those people. I mean, everything from sharing chews to living in living quarters on ship, to gym space and chapel and work. It's all in these confined spaces where you do life together with these people. And hopefully our prayer is that you have found those other believers in those places that you can do life with, because this fellowship, this meeting together we talk about here at Planting Roots, isn't just buddies. It's not just for general fun. It is to grow in our walk with the Lord and be accountable in that walk, and to encourage each other to continue in that walk. So this biblical relationship, this biblical meeting together, is valuable. And imagine that deployment for 3 years instead of just one. Those people do life with you, every single part of life. And that's what it was like for Jesus and the disciples. They slept together, they ate together, they went on trips together, so road trips when they are having random conversations because they walked so much of the places. They hung out together, they had fun together, all of these things they did together. Now, there were many times when other people were involved. Obviously, it wasn't just the 13 of them all the time, but those guys were together consistently for 3 years. And so we see when Jesus calls them at first in Matthew chapter 4, and it's in some of the other Gospels as well, but in Matthew chapter 4, verse 18, it says, "And he was walking along the Sea of Galilee. He saw 2 brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. 'Follow me,' he told them, 'and I will make you fish for men.' Immediately they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw 2 other brothers, James the son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with Zebedee their father, preparing their nets, and he called them. Immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him." Now Jesus began to go all over Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people. So it is here that they start, and these are 4 of them, right? There are 8 more that he calls in time, and they are headed out to do, to learn and to grow together. Now, obviously, the relationship with Jesus is much different because he's a little more on the perfect side than the rest of us, right? But when we talk about meeting together here at Planting Roots, and you think, oh, well, I'm only going to be here a year, I'm only going to be here 2 years. Let's get past the only and say, who does God have for me in this place? Because obviously in 3 years' time, those disciples bonded with each other and they bonded with Jesus. And the outcome of that, the result of that, is what we'll talk about next week. But it was those relationships that fed into what was next. They needed each other and they needed that time. And so whoever is in your space today, whoever is where you are stationed today, whether you are downrange, whether you are at home, whatever that looks like, who are those people that you're supposed to do life with where you are? Now, my question for you today is, where might we find the disciples of Christ? So Jesus found them in very random places, but where might you find them? And if you don't have those people where you are, I want you to go looking. Look for where they are, but look for them in all kinds of places, whether they're in your workspace, whether you run into them at the commissary, whether you're sitting in the waiting room at the doctor's office, wherever it may be. Look who God puts in your path and say, how are they supposed to impact my walk with the Lord, and how can I encourage them? Next week, we'll see what the outcome of that was. So join us each week at the same time on our YouTube channel as we dig into these short little devotionals that hopefully help you to grow in God.